Coaching in Session,
your exclusive destination for unparalleled personal and professional growth.
With your host, Michael Rearden.
Whether you choose to live within limits or break free, your mindset journey begins here.
Welcome, Kirk McCarley, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Michael. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for coming on. Today, we're going to be talking about your work, career development, and also leadership coaching. And I am definitely going to be asking about career because I know this is a big one for our audience where people are trying to find the perfect career for themselves. Maybe they have gone to college for a period of time, whether it be 2 to 4 to 6 to 10 years, whatever it be. They have a degree, they have experience with internships or jobs or whatever it be, but they did all this work and they spent all this time, but yet they're not finding happiness there. So that's going to be a big aspect of our conversation. The last aspect is for the people who have found their careers and how they can be leadership or how they can be leaders in their own right, whether it be in the workplace or looking at leadership in a different regard of their family life. So there's just so many paths that we can go on. But before we go down on our journey, can you please tell us who you are, what you do, and of course, how you help people?
First of all, I've heard that song before, Michael, about career crossroads and how do I get over the hump. But share a little bit about myself, Kirk McCarley, located in Northwest Florida. I'm an executive career, leadership, interview coach. So I work with a lot of the people who are going to be interested in what we have to talk about. I've been coaching for 9 years. I had a career in HR for over 30 years before I entered into this. And the way I got into it, late in career, I wanted to do something different because I had done HR, like I said, 35 years. I hired a coach and was working with that individual. About the third meeting, I said, I want to do what you do. And that's where that launched. So coaches can help you identify entirely new endeavors besides making detours from where you are now or advancing in your career. So I hung out the shingle on that. I absolutely love it. I am part of the gig economy, and I talk to a lot of my clients about that. You're just not solely confined to one thing. You can do multiple things. So besides being a coach, I've been an employee of the Disney Corporation. They've got a little subsidiary called ESPN. And I've been working as a talent statistician with them for over 30 years. I did that while I was still a HR person. I'm a group exercise instructor, and last year I authored my first book.
Many things on your list and on your accomplishments in life. And I can only see what people are going to say is, where do I find the time? How did you find the time?
You have to prioritize it, first of all. I was watching an excellent short video from Stephen Covey earlier today. It's 30 years old as well, but it's the illustration of the jar. And the jar loads up with a lot of pebbles, and the pebbles are the distractions that we face in life. Run the kids to soccer practice. Oh, we've got a PTA meeting coming up this evening. An unexpected trip has popped up. I've got somebody coming into my office now that wants to talk to me about something. They have questions, and pretty soon that to-do list that we have with our priorities of work, family, life type issues, there's no room for that anymore. It's time to empty that jar and identify what's important. What are a person's values? And as I coach them, we begin with that. What is your priority? How are you going to put that at the front of the list? Going from there so that we've got the baseline filled with family, spirituality, work, education, looking to advance my career, looking to go into another career, and these other things start to become more secondary. So it's a coaching process and a process of self-discipline for sure.
I like the idea of figuring out your priorities. And Stephen Covey is timeless. It doesn't matter if it was 30 days or 30 years ago. He was a man who could see what many people get distracted in. And I think people that get distracted in all the mundane things of life. We think of the cars, the houses, the accolades, materialistic goods. And we sometimes misconstrue what our career should do for us. Maybe the career has multiple facets. One should be, we should have a career that's going to give us some money, right? Maybe for our lifestyle. And then maybe there's another aspect to career of it should bring some level of fulfillment. I couldn't imagine someone spending 30 years in a career that they didn't kind of like, right? I'm not saying it was perfect, but at least there was something that you can come in every day to, right? People today, they have toxic relationships with their careers, with their bosses and their co-workers and cohorts. We are living in a different time where career is one of those things where people will forgo and they would rather have a job. Jobs are temporary, right? They can always say, yeah, I work here for a little bit of money. I can buy what I want to buy. And, maybe they are giving themselves of being a leader, an entrepreneur, where they say, I'm going to do things myself because it's more luxurious. But then again, those luxuries come at a cost. And the cost is you need to have many types of skills, or you need to understand how to delegate what you need for your business. And many people, they don't have the know-how because they weren't equipped or built to be leaders in their own right. We think of schooling and education. Of course, you can go to school in college to, become a leader and learn how to do management and deal with people. But if we just kind of follow the curriculum from K to 8 or K to 12 even, leaders are not built, right? You have to want that. You have to be purposeful when you're stepping into leadership. Maybe you join a sports team, you become a captain, you learn what works, what doesn't work. You look at other mentors, other guides along the way, good teachers, good coaches. You could say, this is someone I want to emulate. But today we have technology. At any given point, we can ask ChatGPT or Gemini or Siri or Alexa, hey, I have a question. And hopefully they give you the answer that you're looking for. Otherwise, we ask someone else. And we keep asking until we get the right answer that we're looking for. But yet, when we're looking at, what is right for us, we could do the work, right? We can write down our values. We can figure out our priorities. We can figure out what are going to be our distractions in life, and we can try to mitigate all that. And we can say, let's truly be intentional about the things that matter the most. But even after all that is said and done, people, they still fall into a rut. We can think of New Year's resolutions, how people are so invigorated at the beginning of the year. They're hungry for something more, right? Les Brown would say, you got to be hungry. You got to be hungry. Now, and how many people are hungry in life, but then it's somewhere at some point they get satisfied. So my question is, career, and jobs are different, right? My barber said, a job will get you by, a career will get you through. And basically meaning that a career can take you further than a job ever could. Think of if you just mowed lawns as a job. Now, if you started a landscaping company, you can go a lot further with that. But many people, they have this mixed up, I believe, with a job and a career, and then the aspect of what that should do for them, whether it be the lifestyle, whether that be financial, happiness, whatever, fulfillment. We can go down a list of everything. But what's the steps for a person to truly say, this is the career for me? How do they know, right? As a man who spent 30 years in a profession and you do countless work in 9 years in coaching, you're a man who knows what he wants. And you're a person that can say, I have done things maybe in life that I didn't enjoy, and I've done things in life that I do enjoy. How can you help people see what they should be enjoying more so than just going down paths that they're going to find themselves unhappy and unfulfilled down the road?
I want to start with a story about mowing lawns because you hit on something is a lesson to me. I had a lawn business when I was in high school. I loved it. Fort Worth, Texas, we got a lot of sun. I had a great suntan by the end of the summer. I picked up a few bucks and it was very therapeutic, cathartic. I still like working in the yard. That's part of why my business is called the Seed Sower. So this kid I played basketball against in high school, he was on a rival team and he went off to college. And when college was done, everybody is signing up for career planning, meetings with the big corporations. Are you going to sign up? Are you going to meet? No. What are you going to do? I'm going to mow lawns. You're going to mow lawns for a living. That's what he had done in the summer. His enterprise was bigger than mine, but we both enjoyed mowing lawns. Well, that's what he did. And that business grew and it grew and it grew even more to become a multi-million-dollar operation in Fort Worth, Texas. He also began the entrepreneurship program at that school, so inspired by what he did. So the point of that is, before I get into career can be anything you want it to be. Pursue your passion, your skill, what you enjoy, what you're good at as a baseline. Now, talking about my career in HR, it was a pretty good career. I give it an A minus. That's not bad. But looking back on it prospectively, it was a learning experience for me to prepare for what I'm doing now. Later in life, I'm 68 years old. A lot of people say you should be retired. I'm refired is the term that I use because I'm doing all these various things and just absolutely loving it. But what I realized is that career in HR, a pretty good career, prepared me for where I am now. And it's why they talk about us practicing a profession. Lawyers practice law, doctors practice medicine. I practiced HR to prepare for where I am now. Now, I would not want people to wait till they're 60 years old before they find satisfaction in career. And I'm not saying that. I had a pretty good career up to that point. But the true impact of what I've experienced from a professional standpoint, I'm really able to tie that all together now. And it's such a self-actualizing moment for me.
Well, we can look at happiness at 65. And I know this is a myth that many people believe, where they will work for XYZ amount of years for a company. And at 65, they get to retire. Retirement is the golden chalice of life, right? They get to drink from all the goodnesses of all their hard work throughout the years. But they, if we look at statistics, within 10 years, these people have, passed away. So at some point, we need to give ourselves purpose, because what happens at 65 is they don't really have purpose anymore. So they might sit on their front porch and just yell at the kids, across the street or on the street or whatever they're doing. And maybe that can bring about some level of fulfillment. But the idea is most people, they just kind of sit back in their recliner, take a breath, drink their tea or whatever, and kind of just wait until there's no more days to go by, or someone calls them, or maybe someone from their family visits or whatever, right? That just kind of leads to this idea of people are waiting for life to happen, right? And all this time they have been living, going into a 9 to 5 or whatever it be. And now, they have no career past 65 because they retired. And as you said, you're a refire, which is important, I believe. But this idea, right, where work or with purpose is more than just an age or a season of life, right? It's something that we have to, as people or as humans, give ourselves this idea that we have to keep on moving and we have to keep on growing. It's the same thing with learning and education. If you're not learning, you're dying, right? Because you have to learn new skills in order to stay up with the times. Think of technology today. iPads and AI and all of these things, right? If you don't know how to use them, you're behind in the time. Kids, right? My son is 3. He knows how to use an iPod or like an iPad better than my mom. So that right there is proof that, technology is going to play a huge role in someone's career. But, with time, things are going to change. What were some of the changes that you have seen in your life from technology, and then where people are going today with their career choices?
Technology is the difference between where millennials and Zs are now and where I was back in the, let's say, 90s. We didn't have it. When you're out of the office, there wasn't an answering machine. There was a assistant, a secretary, who would write down a note of somebody having called, put it on a pink notepad, and give it to you, and you return that call. There weren't computers. There was maybe a mainframe in place that a few people understood how that worked. Calculations were done on a calculator. There weren't Excel spreadsheets. We were in a mainframe environment. COBOL, BASIC, Fortran were the languages, the programming languages that were used back then. So the evolution happened rather quickly, but every year there was something different to adjust to. It was 1995. I started using a laptop, using somebody to dictate notes to, which I did early on, became an obsolete practice. It was no longer craft something on a piece of paper and give it to someone to type. It was, I could do it myself. I could alleviate a step. I say that to talk to people that I heard that would speak to me so often about, I'm doing the job of 2.5 people that 2.5 people did 10 years ago. My response was, you should be able to do that, because if you've kept up with the times, you've become more efficient in the job that you're performing. You've kept your skills updated. You have educated yourself. You're better than you were 10 years ago. If you're not, you've stayed the same, you haven't advanced. So that's what's contingent upon each of us. I loved when I was working in HR, Michael. I had assistants that I could delegate things to, particularly as it pertained to technology. Now I delegate to the person that I look at in the mirror every morning when he gets up and say to myself, son, you better go figure this out.
I think of what you said early on, how we should be passionate about the work that we do. And I know parents today, they look at where the world is going and they say, you know what would be a good profession? Engineering or something with cybersecurity, right? Because these things are where the world is moving. So we need people in cybersecurity. We need people in, I'm trying to think like building circuit boards and stuff like that. So we know we need these jobs. So parents are definitely pushing their children and saying, hey, you should do this rather than be a doctor, be a lawyer. And so the passions from the parents are going on into the children, but the children are not necessarily living their own passions in their own life because they're kind of doing what they have been told from their mom or dad or grandma or whatever, because this is where the world is going. And so when we start to look at that, is there a career choice where our youth or people that are looking for career change should be looking at primarily, or should it just be an active passion where they just do things that they love?
I think you start evaluating first with that active passion. What are your God-given gifts, your talents? What is it that you do that differentiates you from others, that's distinct, that's unique? For me, I'm going to go back to my childhood as an athlete. This was long before, this is the 1960s, 1970s, long before computers, calculators, any of that. But I always had an interest in mathematics and had a gift for being able to do calculations in my head. I struggled in math because I couldn't prove my answers, but I could tell you that 12 times 12 equals 144. 7 of 19 is 36.8%. What application does that have? I roomed with a broadcast communications major in college. He was on a strong career path. He became the first play-by-play announcer when the Dallas Mavericks got their franchise back in 1981. He later moved on to what was the Southwest Conference, doing football and basketball games at that time. He needed a statistician to help him with doing those things. We were good friends. We were in each other's wedding. I was a natural choice because of that unique skill, which 35 years later, I'm still doing. So, example of everybody has got something that's a special talent that's unique to them. Identify that and think broadly. Who might be able to use this talent? My wife has been one of my greatest encouragers because she'll say to me, I can't believe what comes out of that head sometimes. It has application in this very confined, unique field, which everybody wants to be in.
With technology and everything moving so quickly, there's fears of finding work or finding a career because, technology or robots can do what people can do, right? I think you said something where you're doing the work of 2.5 people or something along those lines. So it's the same idea where is there going to be enough work down the
I
road?
was talking to a client yesterday, and she works in a profession that arguably AI is intruding upon. Financial analysis, looking into things related to operations. And so that was one of the questions I asked her, Michael. I said, how is AI going to potentially supplant what it is that you're doing now? Her response to me, I thought, was a very healthy one. She did not see AI, the chat GPTs, all these things like that as a threat, but rather a complement. It's going to help me to do my work more efficiently and quicker. And throughout my career, what I've observed, people who are most threatened by change are always most affected by it. She had a healthy approach to that. I'm going to figure out a way to use this to my betterment. She's going to be a survivor, I would predict. Others who said, oh, I'm overwhelmed, AI is going to take over my job, they become victims and they succumb to that.
That leads to my point that I brought up into the beginning of the podcast or show, where we talked about leadership, right? Where many people are looking to be those entrepreneurs now because maybe they are seeing these challenges or these technologies coming in, maybe possibly taking their work or their career. So they say, you know what? I'm just going to be someone where it can never be taken from me. Because if you are the CEO of your company, you are always going to have work, right? You always have to do the work. Of course, you can delegate a lot of it, but or your responsibility is to make sure that the company is going to, stand the test of time if you wanted to. I know there's people who build companies just to sell companies, right? They flip them, like they have this great mindset where they're like inventors. They're like, I have so much I want to do. I don't want to be tied in one thing. So they just kind of get things going. And then they kind of build the framework, the foundation, the systems, and then they say, okay, on to the next project. So there's different types of mindsets when it comes to what type of boss, entrepreneur, leader you want to be. But with this type of thinking now, right, where people are maybe possibly afraid of starting a career or joining someone else's visions because they don't know if it's going to be there 30 years or 40 years or until they're 65. So they say, I would rather bet on me rather than someone else. So they're starting these things, but yet many people are not built for these things, right? They're not built to be leaders. They don't know how to manage books and accounting or marketing or sales or all these things that a business needs. Where would someone begin when they're looking at leadership or a role of leadership and stepping into that?
I would say start with who you are first. What do you value? Do you have a strategic plan or vision? And for many people, I'm hearing now, I want to have impact. I want to be a positive impact on those that I interact with, change lives. I want to kind of be metaphorically like the little boy who is on the seashore throwing starfish back into the sea and saving them one at a time when there are doubters who say, what difference are you possibly making? He responds back, I'm making a difference to that one. So what do you value? We live in a world where values are challenged and ethics are challenged. The last organization I was in, the last couple of years, I had a huge ethical challenge, and I was in the role of being a chief ethics officer. And so I had a decision to make. Was I going to stand up for what I believed to be right, which I did? I paid the price for it. I had a miserable last 2 years, but you know what? It prepared me for where I am now. And so many clients I meet with go through similar situations like that. One of the biggest encouragements I received during that time is one of my staff members came up to me. They saw that what was happening. They saw retaliatory actions taken against me. And it was so encouraging because they were younger than me, but they said, I want to be you when I grow up. That things like that carry you forward for a long, long time. And I was able to successfully walk into the sunset. I was not compromised. And later, other members of that organization, they faced some pretty severe consequences.
First off, I like that, or I love the story. I don't like it. I love the story of the boy and the starfish. It was first introduced to me at my graduation for my bachelor's in college. And when the guy had, told us the story, it's the first time I've ever heard the story. And I said, it's very interesting because I was going into teaching where I was going to be a teacher, and you get a classroom of, 30 kids or whatever. Your job is to make sure that they're ready for the next grade or the grade level, right? So if you're in fourth grade, they're ready for fifth grade, right? But somewhere in between, it was more than just the class, right? And it was the individual, right? Because a fourth grade class is just not 30 kids, right? It's everyone that builds that class, right? It could be a bunch of random names, like Megan, John, right? Elizabeth, right? We can go down fake names of people who are in the classroom. And I think sometimes people, they get corralled into a position or a job and they say, I'm just another peon, right? Like I'm just someone else. And it's hard to give yourself meaning in life when it seems like you're just a number, right? Typically when you start school, you're alphabetically arranged. So if you have a last name that begins with A, like Albert or something like that, and you're at the front of the class or every class for the rest of your life or for your schooling career. And maybe that gives a good, strong mindset, right? Like, hey, I'm in the front, right? I'm number one. But then it can also maybe give you this thing of, everyone's paying attention to me. Everyone's watching me. So I'm going to have all these eyes on me. So let me not make a mistake. So there's two schools of thought here. One where I'm number one, I'm the top dog. And then one where I can't make a mistake. Everyone's paying attention. And what that does is it creates some fears and it maybe creates some limits that people are going to be living in, whether that be career choices or stepping into leadership choices where they say, let me take this safe road. And I want to get your perspective on someone choosing the safe option rather than an option where they can feel maybe most fulfilled in. I can't tell you how many people will go into accounting because they know they're going to make $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And the lifestyle that they say that they want to live is around $50,000 to $60,000 a year. So they say, I'm going to take the safe option of being an accountant. Yes, they could be good with numbers. Yes, they can be good with dealing with, businesses and things like that. But it might not truly be their passion. What is something you would say to those people who are taking the safe option rather than the option that's going to maybe give more fulfillment or truly stepping into their whole passion?
Well, this will be Kirk talking to Michael, and my friend. We were fortunate in that K&M were kind of in the middle of the A to Z. So we kind of got hidden away by those who were at the front and those who were at the rear. So that was kind of safe in and of itself. But there are times to be safe, to play conservatively. To use a sports parallel again, the sacrifice bunt can be a very good play. The safety bunt to advance the runner to get them into scoring position as opposed to swinging for the fences and potentially hitting into that double play. That's part of the strategy, and it depends on what the season may be. It may be a risk-adverse season that you're in. I just need to feed my family. I need to put shoes on the baby. We need to save up money in order to buy a house, buy a car. There will be a higher risk opportunity, perhaps, that comes up later on. Or I just got out of a high risk opportunity and I want something that's going to be safe at this time. So again, it depends on the circumstances, I would say. I am analytical by nature. I'm an Enneagram 5. Things need to be logical to me. But sometimes it is the opportunity to pull out the stops. It was that when I entered into coaching because I left the security of a job, which ended up being not as secure as I thought it was going to be, and began with the risk of my own business, but having some safety there from the standpoint of defined benefit pension plan foundation that was not going to provide for all my needs, but it was going to meet some of them. So calculated risk that goes with that. So I would say to people, be aware of the situation when the timing is right. And again, depending on your risk tolerance or adversity, be true to yourself as to what's going to work. Bob Newhart was in a safe profession. He was an accountant. We don't remember him as an accountant. We remember him as one of the most effective deadpan comedians that's ever been out there. He found his niche.
And they're very true. And many people, they do have to put themselves out there, whether it be, that leap of faith they have to go, jump on like a bungee cord or something, or maybe a parachute. But you do have to look at those calculated risks, right? I'm not saying to bet it all on black and, your life savings, and you just refinance your home to see if you can, make a quick couple of dollars at the casino. Like, that's not the risk I'm talking about, or we're talking about. I think when we're looking at our life and our trajectory, there are going to be things that we can maybe push toward a lot sooner than what we are right now. Because if you are a person, I know this happens to quite a lot of people, they feel confined with their degree, where they say, I have this degree, I need to advance my degree, otherwise I can't get ahead. Think of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where the two fathers, we have one father who had that mindset, then you had the other father who was, high school educated, starts this construction business, well off. But it requires this idea of knowing what you need to do, right? There's going to be people who say, I need everything perfect before I take action. And then there's going to be other people who are going to say, I'm going to get mentors, I'm going to get coaches, I'm going to get guides to help me along the way, right? I'm going to get resources, whether it be videos, books, podcasts, whatever it be, to give me the next step that I have to go on, right? This can be systematic in a sense, very similar to how when you were getting coaching on your third session, you said, I want to do what you're doing, right? And that's this idea, right? Where coaching is not just, hey, you're going to come talk to me for some therapy and I'm going to say, you have so much going on, I'm here to support you. No. I'm all about results in my coaching, where if you're coming to me, you're coming to me for a reason. And we are going to make sure that reason becomes a reality. And that is what coaches are there for, right? To look at where you are, to look at all of the circumstances that you're currently in, and then to, of course, work with you to take those calculated risks. Because I think when it comes to our potential, or maybe what we can do, we're capped at what we have been told, what we currently think. But when someone is there on, same side of the table saying, hey, I know you can do more, right? I can see it within you. That right there can be, worth its weight in gold. And so this is why I love having other wonderful coaches like yourself come on, Kirk, and to not only talk about your work and what you have been through in your life, but to be that coach or to be that guide for someone who might be looking for guidance. And it's important that, we are giving people their perfect fit, right? Maybe not perfect fit, but the fit that's going to work for them. And I always say this because this is like who I am. I'm very spicy, right? Where like if you want someone to kick your butt, call David Goggins or call me. All right. Don't call me if you want, tell me your sob stories and you want me to say, oh, you poor thing. It's not me. I'm not saying it's Kirk either, but what I'm saying is there's going to be coaches and there's going to be different flavors for everybody, right? And, from speaking with you, Kirk, today, like I can truly tell that you are a man of passion. You are a man who loves his work. And I'm not sure if you know about this, where your friend got into a position and he thought about you. That says something, right? It's like, I can rely on Kirk. That means that anyone who reaches out to you today or in the next couple of weeks or months or whenever they listen to this episode, I'm sure they can count on you also. So with all that being said, Kirk, I would love to get some final words, of course, from you. And then please tell everyone where they can find you, reach out, and begin working with you.
Michael, I'm a rich man, not from a monetary standpoint, but coming back to what you talked about, my friend bringing me in as talent statistician, the connections, the network that I have in all different kinds of aspects of life, friends that we'll go out with as couples, people that we go to church with, that we have deep spiritual relationship with, folks that I played sports with, people that I work with in the sports industry. And of course, the clients that I have, I mentioned I published a book last year, now readers that are hearing some of my observations about leadership communications and connecting with me as a result of that. I guess my encouragement to people, you mentioned about our coaching styles, and you sound like you can be pretty good at kicking butt. I can be that way as well. Our methods may differ a little bit. I was thinking about this lady I was coaching yesterday, and I told her, there's more there. I'm curious. I want to see that come out. I'm not quite sure how that's going to happen, but it was a very encouraging statement from my standpoint, but a challenging one at the same time to get her to thinking about what is more that I have to reveal about myself in order to attain the success that I want for my life. So that's what goes into my coaching. It's sort of like Magic with the Lakers, Jordan with the Bulls. They played on pretty good teams, but they were able to cause those teams they worked with, the individual players, to become better than they thought that they could be. And that's what I seek to do as a coach. I can be reached at theseedsowercoach.com is my website. I'm at Kirk at theseedsowercoach.com. I'm here in Northwest Florida. If you want a book on communications, leadership, sports, observations about life, things that you can apply, Thoughts for My Kids and Other People's Kids is available out on Amazon or at your local bookstores. Grab a copy of it. I'd be much indebted. And Michael, I want to thank you for sharing some of your day with me today. It was my pleasure.
It was my pleasure as well, Kirk. And I'm going to make it easy for everyone. All the links are just right down below, including the book. Reach out to Kirk if you are looking for some help, some inspiration, or simply some guidance on your career. Or if you are stepping into entrepreneurship for the first time and you might have some shaky feet and you might have a lot of doubts that are coming in, I want you to, put some trust into someone else, right? So Kirk is going to be that person who can, handle that trust fall, quite well. As you were saying with that client, I'm curious, I think there's something there. I know if you're listening to coaching in session, the curiosity is always ringing in your ear. And it's always like, if there's something else for me, how do I get it? And today can be that step, right? So check out the links below. Kirk, thank you so much for spending some time and, of course, talking about your work today.
Thank you once again, my friend.